The Apostle Paul in Romans 12:2 said that God's will is good, pleasing, and perfect. That truth echoes in the title of this book, A Good and Perfect Gift. Faith, expectations, and a little girl named Penny. Amy Julia Becker from New Jersey is the author and the mother of 3 children.
Yeah.
And we're going to be seeing them all in our time together.
Great.
What an achiever you are.
Oh.
First in your class.
Well, not exactly first. I did well. Not number 1 at Princeton, certainly not that. But I did work hard and get good grades and do all those things you're supposed to do.
Princeton University, Princeton Seminary.
Yep.
You know, I think you've touched something so important in all of our journeys with this one word, expectations. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Tell us about your firstborn.
So when Penny was born, I was 28 years old, and we had a normal delivery. She was 2 weeks early, but nothing to be worried about. She had an 8 out of 10 on her APGAR score, so I, as a new mother, thought everything was completely fine. And then about 2 hours after she was born, a nurse came in, called my husband out of the room, and when he came back, his eyes were just a little bit moist. And he said to me, the doctors suspect that Penny has Down syndrome. And we did not expect that at all. And I hadn't realized that I came into the hospital with a set of expectations, that I had carried in with me a sense that I knew, or at least could imagine, what my little girl was going to be like. And I imagined her being just like me as a little girl. And I'd heard stories from my mom about this kid, me, who talked early and walked and was precocious with adults and all of these things, and I expected to have the same in my daughter. And then I had this news of a diagnosis. I didn't know what it would mean, but I knew that I didn't know what to expect anymore, and it was a very, very fragile place to find myself in.
You talk about your darkest fear. I don't know if that invaded right then. December 30th, 2005, 5:22 p.m.
Yep.
You had a little 5-pound, 5-ounce firstborn.
Yep.
What was that darkest fear, and when did it move into your heart?
Well, certainly within the first 24 hours, my darkest fear was that I was not going to love our daughter. And I think that's probably every parent's darkest fear, that you will be given this baby who you've wanted, who you've planned for, who you've dreamed about. And then my fear was that in discovering that she was different than I expected her to be, that I would not be the mother that I wanted to be for her. And again, I imagine that most mothers feel that at some point along the way, even without a diagnosis of Down syndrome 2 hours after birth. But I think it's all new, and we all are going to face expectations with our children and then find that they're not who we expected them to be.
Look at this little Tinker Bell. Your husband was amazing. Even when he came to you with the possibility, he seemed throughout to have a real openness to this surprise.
Yeah, he would say that I didn't necessarily convey very well the depth of how difficult it was for him in the first 24 hours. But it also for him was 24 hours that it was difficult. And he would say he was essentially at the bottom of the ocean, just really felt as though he was drowning, and it was very, very difficult. But he popped up to the surface much more quickly than I did. And from then on, he just had this attitude of, she is our daughter, she is beautiful, we love her, and that's the end. And I think some of that is, I think he's more able to live in the present moment than I am. I think I'm the planner in the family. I keep our calendar. I look to the future. And it was the future that was so unknown. In the present moment, we both knew that who we had was a beautiful baby girl, and we adored her. He was able to stay there much more easily than I was. I kept going to this future place that was filled with questions and doubts and fears, and he was more able to stay in the present moment. And I think both of us are now more able to do that with Penny and with our other kids as well.
You now have also William,
Yes.
who's 3, and Marilee, who is 1.
Yep.
Penny is 6 today.
Yes.
Let's look at some pictures of your current family. Oh, now that's an earlier birthday. How many candles on
I
that
think
cake?
there's 3 candles, but so she was turning 2.
Turning 2.
But
Here's the family.
Yep. That's more recent.
Wonderful. And your husband is Peter.
Yes. That's at my sister's wedding earlier this fall. And that was just last week.
Oh.
They were running in a little, track and field race day.
You know, you talk about experiencing freedom as Penny's mom. Now, you've already told us that you're the planner.
Right.
Maybe a little bit of a control issue. I want to say on the positive, you truly are an acclaimed writer. Some people might know you from the New York Times parenting blog, Motherload. You write for Christianity Today magazine. You are top drawer when it comes to accomplishment and doing things well. How did Penny liberate you as a new mother?
Yeah, I think I had always known in my head that as a Christian, I should value things differently than the rest of the world, that accomplishments and achievements and getting it all right was not what we were supposed to be going for, but instead we were supposed to be, really turning our eyes to the Lord and admitting our weakness and our needs and depending upon one another. But I didn't live that way. I lived as if what it meant to be perfected by the Spirit was to become an autonomous individual, kind of like a little superwoman who could do everything all by herself.
Performance-driven.
Yes. And so when I had a child with a disability where I didn't know what she would be able to do, not only did I have to think about who she was, but it made me think about who I am and about all the ways that I was really denying my own humanity, denying what it meant to be God's child, and trying to essentially be my own God, trying to control it all, trying to have it all together. And that's a scary place to be, to recognize how wrong you are about what makes life meaningful. But ultimately, it's really liberating to know that I need other people, that I am a limited and vulnerable human being with vulnerability brings with it, I guess, openness, right? So it's an openness that can bring a lot of hurt, but it's also an openness to joy and to love and to God's goodness in the world and in our lives.
So you don't have to be super mom. You don't have to be the perfect mom.
Right.
And you've held on to that in parenting your additional children.
I sure hope so, yes. I'm so grateful. I was worried, I write about this in the book, when Penny was first born. I say, I could have handled this if she were my 3rd child, if I already knew what it was to be a mom. But I'm also so grateful that she was my first child, because I hope that the freedom we were given with her is a freedom that we feel with our other children as well. Not to think you're on a track and this is the life that you are supposed to lead and it involves these schools and these sports and these activities, but instead, my job as your parent is to nurture the image of God within you, to help you understand what it means to be a human being, to be a gifted and broken human being in this world, and to help you discover who you are in God's sight and to help you live that out. And some of that just means knowing that you're loved. Some of it means, in a very particular way, knowing what you love, whether that's, playing the violin or kicking a soccer ball or being with people. There are any sorts of options for all of our kids.
Well, you declare yourself anti-tiger mom.
Yeah.
Some need to hear that.
Yes.
And join you there.
Right, I know. I do feel like I want our kids to work hard, certainly, and I want to teach them the value of perseverance and all sorts of things that I think a tiger mom might care about. But I also want to teach them that working hard is not what makes them who they are, and that I don't get to decide what track they're on or what they are supposed to do with their lives.
I love the surprises that reached you, God's surprises in Penny. Yeah. One of your concerns was that your firstborn wouldn't have the love of reading that is so important in your life, something you hoped to share with your daughter. Tell us about that.
Well, that is a funny story, because I did realize early on in Penny's life that I might not share this great love of mine, and it was really sad for me to realize that. And I came to a point of being able to let that go, being able to say, you know what, this love has really become an idol, And it is not a bad thing to love things like reading, but it is bad if that's the ultimate thing, if that's the thing you love more than anything else. And so I think I really did let go of that love. What's ironic is that I have this daughter who loves reading. Penny actually is the kid who I honestly find myself saying to her, if you don't finish your dinner, you're not going to be allowed to do your reading homework, because she loves reading so much. It can be used as, there are times when I say, Penny, please, you need to go outside and play and stop reading that book. So she is my daughter. She is a little girl who's grown up in a household with lots of books, and she loves them. But I think God put that in its proper place in our lives, which is to say that the love that He has for us and that we have for each other is far more important than this shared love and this kind of friendship that's developing around books.
Amy Julia, this daughter has changed you in so many ways. Yeah. It's very clear as you read the book. Here's a statement. Chromosome 21 seemed like a thief that stole my real daughter. That's not how you view it today.
No, not at all. It did. For a long time I thought that there was this Penny that was hidden behind this extra chromosome. And it took me a long time to realize that chromosome was there from the moment of her conception. There has never been a Penny without that. And it helped me to realize that I had been grieving the loss of a hypothetical child. And here I had my real child. And so that grief, although it was real, it also was able to be completely stripped away. It didn't have to remain. And God really was able to take that grief and turn it to joy in a different way than when we were experiencing true loss. It was a hypothetical loss, not a real loss. And instead I was given the gift of this beautiful, precious, again, both broken, limited, vulnerable, and incredibly gifted and wonderful child.
Amy Julia Becker, very evidently a gifted writer. And the journey may be one that will help you right now. This book is at our e-store. I want to tell you that Publishers Weekly named it one of the top 10 religious books of 2011. Johnny Erickson Tata found it, quote, poignant, powerful. If you're finding it difficult to see God's goodness in your circumstances today, please order this book. Crossroads.ca is our online connection, or call 1-800-265-3100. And just be reminded that we're here for you 24/7 if you need prayer for a new perspective where you're sitting today. Amy Julia, or AJ. Does your mom call you AJ?
They go back and forth.
Back and forth. God bless you and your family, and thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you for having me.
God bless you in your move to Connecticut.
That's right.
We'll be back with Truth to Go.